Okay, this is not actually a lecture, one of my series. This is going to be a new series of very short little gematria examples which are going to be related to news that comes along. Of course, it's going to be depending on my own time and fitting these in. I don't promise to do a news item every day, but something that comes to my mind that looks interesting, I'm going to do something. And this morning I saw something interesting that grabbed my mind, and this was on a cat, a cat called Bob, who unfortunately died yesterday, or was it the day before, on the 15th of this month. And he's the cause of a few books that have been written about this cat by a person called James Anthony Bowen. And Bowen was was brought up a split family. Mother moved to Australia. He had problems in education. He ended up on the streets back in London, and he was busking, and that's how he earned his money. And one day he comes home to his flat, and there's a cat in the hallway. And after a few days, he realised this cat, besides being ill, is ownerless, and he takes him on board. You can read about his story in Wikipedia. That's what I did this morning. I went into Wikipedia and I found out about his life. Very interesting, and how this cat brought his life together, and he became an author of some books, and a film was made of one of his books, a street cat named Bob. I've not seen it, but it looks very interesting, and he's been on the top seller list. So this grabbed my attention. So my question was, what attracted the cat to James? And because those who've seen my lectures, you've seen that I show connections numerically, and how those numbers represent energy or vibrations within a person, and that causes the attraction. And I've also explained that these are things inherent from birth, and that person is given that name because that is the mission, or that's part of the mission when the person comes down in his life. And the name is not just an appendix to the person, it's an intrinsic value to the person's life. And people that change their names sometimes end up having extensions to the mission, or they have a different mission. So it can be part of the life. And I've explained that in terms of Abraham in the Bible, who is Abraham, and God changed his name to Abraham, and things like that. So this lecture is going to be a little bit more. It's going to be short, but it's going to be I'm going to need to explain some of these systems, because people that come to these little short talks may not know anything about my gematria systems. But if you do want to, please go and look at the first 7 or 8 lectures and you'll get to understand it more. So I'm going to write down James, and his second name is Anthony, and his third name is Bowen. And what I use as the first thing is that's a M, it's an E. I use what's called the placement value, PV, placement value, where I take the order of the letters. So I say A is the first letter, J is the 10th letter, M is the 13th letter, and I add up all the values of all the letters. Alright? In this case, I'm going to do the whole name. And if I did that, so that's 10, 1, 13, 5, and I'm not going to write them all, and you add them all up, you get 204, and I call that the PV. Okay? Now, if you take the word cat, and now I'm going to use a different system. This is called the normal value. It's used in Greek and in Hebrew, where we use the decimal. We go A to J, J is 10, and then K is 20, L is 30, M is 40. We do that, and we get to S is 100, T is 200, etc. So T is 200, A is 1, C is 3, third letter, and we get 204. So we see that there's an attraction between James and the cat. Okay? Now, the name of the cat was Bob. So this is a little more complicated if you haven't seen my early lectures. So I'm just going to show you again as briefly as I can. And we're going to use the words Bob the cat. Okay, Bob the cat. And we're going to use two systems. First of all, we'll look at the system we just used, which was the normal value, where O is 60, 2, this is the decimal system, T is 200, etc. If I use that, I'll get a number of 481. That's what I call the normal value, the NV system. Okay, that's 481. Now there's an extension to the placement value system where I take, if I put the placement value again, this is 2, this would be 15, the 15th letter, this is 2. Now the extension of the placement value system is when I work out the value of the words. So that is 2. And now I use the placement value to work out what 2 is. T is 20, W is 23, O is 15, that gives me 58. 15, the word 15 is 65, 2 again is 58. And if I keep going along here, 2 is 20th letter, and 20 is 107. H is 8, 8 is 49. And I keep going along, etc., etc., all the way along Bob the cat. What does that come out to? And I call that the large value system. It's 576. And I call that LV, the large value. And then I can add these two systems together like forces or energies. We can add them together. These are vibrations. It's a 7. And I get 1057. That is two value systems, two aspects of vibration. Bob the cat equals 1057. If I now look at, says me, looking around, and I'm going to look at James Anthony. This is his two names. Rub off Bowen. Okay. His first two names, James Anthony. I get a placement value when I've rubbed off all the values 10, 1, 13, etc., 5, 19, 1, 14, 28, etc. I'll get 145. I'm not using Bowen at the moment, which is 204. Just these two names gives me 145. And then if I look at the large value, this system here, where I take these values and I work out 10 is 39, the word 1 is 34, the word 13 is 99. If I work out the large value for system, I will get 902. Add those together, I get 1057. Okay, so I've got these two numbers now, Bob the cat, interrelated with James Anthony, his first two names. So we see this connection between James and his cat, and why he named it Bob, his saviour. And that's the end of that story. That just shows that it's not just an affinity that one gains between people, but there's an affinity that one can get with animals as well, and that cat was there for him. I'm going to give another lecture soon about an interesting story in a newspaper that was quite a few years ago, a magazine about a cat and a dog. Maybe part of this series. It was a news item of some years ago, but it's reminded me from it. If you take I'll leave it for when I discuss it. So thank you for watching, and I hope you like Bob the cat. These things you can try out for your own pets if you give them names and see if they're significant to you. Thank you very much for watching. Give me a like, and please subscribe and you'll get more of these.